Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I am a registered nurse with varied experience from cardiology, long-term care, rehab, but predominantly hospice and palliative care. In this channel, and if you're new, welcome. Thank you for visiting. In this channel, we talk about death and dying, hospice nursing topics, including many of the books that I have written for hospice nurses. Books I've written for caregivers, books I've written for holistic nurses, topics about how to manage grief, anticipatory grief before somebody dies or after the fact. And most recently, sharing my journey, which is going to be part of today's topic, on becoming a death doula. Disclaimer, for the past year and a half, from a point of view, I've been an uncertified death doula. We'll talk more certification in the upcoming portion, but I've been helping people freely, no charge, over the internet. You can be a death doula telewise. Um, but before we go into today's topic, I cannot encourage every one of my listeners enough the critical importance of finding moments of gratitude. What are you grateful for? So a couple things. One, I don't know if Jacob will ever watch any of my videos because he is so busy on so many different things, but he brought up, and not trying to preach to you, so this is just a short segment. So if you're an atheist, speed up and bypass this very short segment. You're saying, Peter, you're short. That's a different story. But Jacob shared about, if you talk about Lazarus being dead for 4 days, he was just asleep. Well, he brought up the analogy of, well, technically, when we go to bed every night, we don't know if we're going to wake up every morning. So technically, we're being resurrected every morning. So praise God for that. And I do mean that. But other areas of what I'm grateful for, and I encourage you to look at gratefulness. I received the author copy for 3 of my most recently published books. So this is Hospice Tools of the Trade. It is 8.5 by 11 because this one is intended for you to be able to say, okay, I'd like to have this in my clipboard. I want to be able to put it and have enough margins on the left and the right that I could put it on a copy machine. And I'm saying, please don't make books of this. I'm a small-time publisher and author. I'm grateful for every sale I get. I need every sale I get. But maybe you want to be able to print out the different pages for here, the opioid conversion. Some of this I published freely on some hospice nursing assessment. I'm sorry, hospice nursing Facebook groups. But basically, these are just 1 to several page, admission questions that hospice nurses should consider asking. So I got the author copy for that. I got the author copy. Yes, this is thick. I dedicated this book to Ed Braddock, one of my friends on fellow hospice nursing friends. Clinical pharmacology, focusing on how the dying, like that makes a big difference. Our liver processes the meds. Our kidneys excrete most of the meds. Even when you have cardiopulmonary and liver with the ascites, a lot of stuff changes how medication works. So this goes through, how do I know how to do not that you how to teach you the S bar, but like what should I be using for the S bar given this disease process? And if I walk into a family that was like they're the ones calling the doctors, you didn't know they're going to make a change, or the facility, which happens more often than not. How do you know what to do in what order? So this book heavy with sorry, I don't know which way to face the camera, but heavy with case studies and so on and so forth. So hospice clinical pharmacology. By the way, and not after this, who knows what will happen. But as of today, there's, to my knowledge, there's no clinical pharmacology books just for hospice nurses. That's part of why I write my books, because, gee, there's nothing out there for my fellow hospice nurses. And lastly, I did get in actually, this is the book for Ed Braddock, sorry. Ed Braddock knows clinical pharmacology by the back of his hand and can explain it so empathetically. It's beyond amazing. But this goes over the pathophysiology at end of life. And again, this is part of the reason I did 8.5 by 11, because if this was a 6 by 9, it would have probably been the equivalent of War and Peace, and um, don't want that there. So three recent books, my author copy. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for you, my visitors, because the upcoming, what I'm about to show you by itself, heads up, it's a little over an hour. This is a long video. I'm heading down the road to becoming a death doula. Tomorrow, I'm following my own advice. I'm going out to an elder law attorney for my wife and I's end of life decision planning and so on and so forth. And I'm meeting with a tax financial advisor for the doula business. And before I go on too much further, let me roll the overview for the upcoming book that I'm going to be sharing on over time. Here we go. This is a brief overview of a book I'm currently working on, looking at how does one become a death doula and start their practice of being a death doula. This book is not intended to compete with the courses that are available out there. As I'm doing my research, and I'll be showing you the reference page when we get to the actual book, right now what you're seeing is just a separate document that has the outline of the intended journey of this book. So here there's a number of courses that are out there. They range tremendously in price. I've seen from on the low end of $800 to the high end of over $8,000. All this to become a certified death doula. The content of the courses vary, and I do believe each and every agency, some of them are individuals, some of them are LLCs, various type of corporate entities. I do believe all of them are offering the value for whatever price they're charging. However, when I was doing my research, there has to be a more economical way. What if there's somebody like me? What if there's somebody like me who is a hospice registered nurse, very familiar with death and dying? Some of you who may be interested in being a death doula, maybe you've been a hospice volunteer for a number of years, so you have a level of experience. You may not be clinical, but you have experience. Or you're a CNA and you have experience. Or maybe you have a huge heart for this and you're looking at where to start, but you don't have $800. You don't have $8,000. And you need to know, how do you do this in the most economical fashion? And then as you're bootstrapping, as you're picking yourself up from the britches, then you start taking courses. Because most death doulas, from my research, they typically start their practice charging around $25 an hour. Some are more. I talked to somebody this past weekend, they were encouraged by their own families to charge $50 an hour. Some are charging $100. But somebody starting brand new is most likely going to be at the $25 an hour range. Do you know how long it takes somebody being paid $25 an hour to earn back an investment of $8,000? So if you get the calculator, 8,000 divided by 25, and you're looking for 320 hours. And on top of that, that doesn't include taxes and other fees that's coming out of that money. So you're not really making $25 an hour. So it could take you 6 months to a year, potentially, depending on what other expenses you have, to pay back that money. So this book is not yet published. It is just in the bare bones of being written. I'll take you over some of the work I've written to date. It is only in draft format. I am hoping to publish in May, no later than June of this year. It will be 22 chapters. This is going to be among the most meatiest books I have written. This is a 535 page book. So this is a meaty book. I do not know if this book, because it's still in progress, will be that size or larger, because it's a lot of chapters. There's a lot of meat. So in terms of like walking you through the outline, there's the introduction of what is a death doula, why there's a growing need, and I'll go over that a little bit more when we get into the actual introduction that I've written. Who is this book for? How to get the most of it? The Death Doula movement, a little bit about the history and philosophy, the scope of practice, which is very different than a nurse or nursing assistant, the journey of dying. This is an extremely meaty chapter. I've done articles on death and dying as a hospice nurse. When I take you through this, this is the most in-depth writing that I've done in terms of like trying to give, here's looking 6 months and going to the last breath. Because as a death doula, while you may not, you get to choose what services that you offer. So you don't have to offer a vigil service. You don't have to offer what others are offering. You are you. You're unique. You bring a lot of value to the table for what you have to offer. But if you're going to be with that person when they are dying, it's best that you not be shocked. It's best that you're more prepared so that you can prepare the family. That's will be part of what you're offering. The education and training available. This is a chapter I just drafted yesterday. I have to flesh it out some more. I was doing some more fleshing last night before bed. Chapters from now on, anything I mention is not yet written. I'm hoping to get into chapter 5 today. But personal preparation, ethical considerations. This book is going to be as complete as I can make it. Business formation and structure. Disclaimer in the book, disclaimer now. I am not a tax advisor. I'm not a certified financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a replacement for any of those services. I can't give legal advice. So this is for education, information purposes. Some may say entertainment. I'm not a fan of that word for this type of purposes because I don't view this as entertainment. I view this as purely educational. But developing your service offering, how to go about pricing, marketing, branding, building your online presence, networking. In the last episode, I showed a draft of a presentation I hope to be giving to the local community for free. I encourage any of you looking and operating your own death doula practice, please, please go out there in the community, network, let your name get known, and give free workshops, free seminars, destigmatize death and dying. The reward for that will be beyond measure. And that type of an investment, and I'm not knocking courses, there each and every course has its value. I was looking this morning, do I go the route of becoming a certified grief counselor? And that course is a $1,500 course as part of being a death doula. So courses have their place. I don't want to give any indication that what I am writing is going to replace a course. It is not. It is intended as a bootstrap or a complement to a course. It is intended as a bootstrap to get you going, and then you take courses, or to complement a course. Or maybe you took one of the lower price courses and you feel that you need a lot more meat on your table, so to speak, or you need something in writing that you can go back and reference. So working with clients, the consultation, care plan, supporting, again, very in-depth book. There's a number of appendices here. Just so that you're aware, I've written many books over the past year. Most of the time when I plan out, like this is looking at 4 appendices, you'll see sub bullets. At the end of the day, this might be 5 to 10. Usually there's more. This is just the framework. So let me get out of this outline. So we're going to go to a different area. There we go. And so now this is the book itself. It's in ebook format, just as this my template. So that name may change, but we'll take it from there. It is copyrighted. Um, Usually I dedicate to my wife, but as I write the book, I might be doing more dedications because I'm working with a number of death doulas, and I do want to recognize many of them. Anna, I don't know if it's Teresa or Teresa, but many other death doulas I've been working with. This is a table of contents. This is not yet the complete book, but what is written to date. I know I'm going through a little bit fast, but let me just get into some more of the meat. So the introduction, going over what a death doula is, what you might be doing as a death doula. So that's this section right here. You complement the work of medical professionals on the non-medical aspects of dying. There are going to be people like myself where I'm a registered nurse. Tomorrow I'm going to be meeting with a business consulting tax advisor myself, looking at forming an LLC and or nonprofit. I prefer the nonprofit route just because for my intended purposes for being a death doula, I want to see if I could do by free, by donations, pro bono. If somebody cannot afford my services, but they need it, if I am able, I want to give everything that I can so they don't die alone. That's me. I'm not saying for what you should be doing, but that's my heart. So here I'm going to be meeting and going over, but as a registered nurse, part of the reason, and not that you have to go an LLC route. There's a lot of death doulas, they're sole proprietorship. For my intended purposes, I'm looking at a wrapper, not just synergistically, but wrapping around what I'm doing because I'm a registered nurse. So I could be the death doula. And because I'm a registered nurse, I can give medications. I can provide hands-on medical care. And so I might be looking at wrappers such as RN concierge services, and even not to those who are dying. So that's just me. In terms of the growing need, there is a huge gap. The need for death doulas is exploding through the roof. And that's why many of these courses are taking off. And that's why some of them, you talk about supply and demand. Right now, the demand for death doulas is skyrocketing, and there's not enough on the supply side. There's not enough instructors. So I was approached less than 2 weeks ago. Would I consider becoming a part-time instructor for a school in Texas? And I'm open to that. So Anna, if you're watching this, I am open. Let's continue the talk. Talk about being a part-time instructor for a course, because in terms of the supply side, there's not enough instructors, there's not enough offerings, and because of that, prices can be higher because you do have to charge a fair value for the time. That's why I want to be very clear. I'm not knocking courses. I do believe they're a fair value for their price. I don't appreciate, and I want to be careful, I don't go down a rabbit trail because I want to value your time. I do get frustrated because there is a company out there that's well established. They've been doing this for a number of years. They have a wonderful reputation that, to me, they're marring it because they compare the cost of their offering to become a registered nurse. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but that infuriates me to no end because they're comparing apples to oranges. So I don't go down the rabbit trail. I'm going to end there and continue going. There's an explosion of need because hospice nurses are getting pressured to the floor in how little time they are to spend with the patients and families. I participate in a number of social media venues to try to help fill the gap myself, and I do this for free. It's a love from my heart. Not everybody can do that. And I don't know how long I can do that. I'm going to die. I might be involved in so many other things that, like, I can't give certain things that I used to do for free. But there's a growing need for people to give that education. I thought I heard the hospice nurse say, or there was a case that, like, one of the cases I'm helping out in the hospice end of life Facebook group is the daughter's working closely with the hospice team and her dad. She shared with me, it was encouraging for me to hear, but I felt bad for her. She said, Peter, in the past couple hours of you going back and forth with me, I've learned more from you than my hospice nurse for the past month. And this is not to knock the hospice nurse. We as hospice nurses are pressured to spend the least amount of time possible with the family and the patient and the caregiver. Move on, move on, move on. Numbers, numbers, numbers. How many more patients can you see in a day? It is unreal. So there's a growing need for people out there who are educated. That's why you need the certification, or at least training, leading the certification. That's why the need. So my hope with writing this book is to give in print for those of you who like something in your hands to print out. And there will be sorry, that's Grammarly Pro. There will be a Kindle version, print version, hardcover version of this book when the time comes. So how to use this book, there's going to be a lot of references of coming back to certain chapters over time. So that's the intro. We go over the Death Doula movement, the history and the evolution of it. And how I like to look at the Death Doula movement is birthing doulas are also up and rising because people are out there. Uh, that one's actually appropriate. People are out there going back to natural birthing, or at least having somebody do more education on the process. So they're a birthing doula. So the death doula is on the other end of the spectrum. Life is beautiful. Death, and I don't mean to be grotesque or I'm not sure of the right word, but to me, death is beautiful. It's God did a wonderful thing with how He did things, and I'm not trying to preach. So I do take a lot of my words from Barbara Carnes, from Nita. You'll see the references in the back that are still growing. It looks at the growing landscape, how we complement traditional healthcare, bridging the gaps. Keep in mind as you're reading, this is in draft form. Usually I do reviews like later on when I go to write chapter 5 today. I'll be reviewing the previous 4 chapters, but when we get to the very end, I'll be doing, there's reviews throughout. I'm probably for certain components of this going to be going out to my existing Death Doula friends. Can you take a look at this particular chapter? Did I miss anything? Am I off base? And as you, the viewer, if you see something, gee, that's way off, Peter, I'm not offended. It takes a lot to offend me. Even when somebody's trying to offend me, I'm dense. I believe I have undiagnosed autism. I'm weird, hopefully in a good way. You're not going to hurt my feelings. It's very hard to hurt my feelings. I do have them, but it's hard. Anyway, key differences between the staff, even looking at hospice A differences, death doulas, what we offer, the role and focus. We have a lot more time availability, how we complement one another. And for some, you were scrolling too fast. 2 things, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic. 1, you could pause, and 2, um, eventually the book will be out. You'll be able to buy the book. This is not meant to be a lack of better words, a way to get a free version. I'm not saying you couldn't. I'm not saying you have to buy the book. If you go watch the videos, this is what I need. That's fine. Why should I be mad at you? Me being frugal, I might do the same thing. So just please don't take copyrighted material. So the philosophy, death is a natural. It's a beautiful process. I'm not saying that there are parts like I've walked in like this is wrong. We need to start managing better. Um, let's get more involvement from the hospice team. The family-centered approach, where the presence over fixing. If you go out to compassioncrossing.info, there's an article that talks about the value of presence visits. And while there I was speaking from the hospice nursing perspective, in one of the hospice nursing support groups, one of the hospice nurses there was asking, their hospice team told them they have to spend 45 minutes to an hour. This was a different type of hospice. Instead of having the pressure to be in and out, their hospice was saying they had to spend up to an hour at a facility. And they were like, what do I do? It was a fair question. All questions are good. And I was like, well, number one, you could document in the visit. You could be making the phone call to the family members in the visit. You could be educating the caregivers and the family staff in the visit. And your presence, just sitting with the person, holding their hand, appropriate touch, instrumental music, just I find at the lowest setting that you could just barely hear it, so it doesn't interfere with you hearing their breathing pattern or noticing things, because you don't want to get to where you become a zombie, so to speak. You become immune to the what you're seeing around you, because we as a nurse, we have to be, I shouldn't say have to, but when we're working, we need to be in assessment mode. And so you don't want to miss, did that breathing pattern change? Are they breathing? Is it more laborious? Um, or other cases where I've been with a patient and their roommate, or just across the hall, they were struggling. I still remember a case where, um, sadly, I got into trouble because, which shouldn't have been the case. I saw a brand new aide trying to feed somebody in the memory unit that wasn't my patient, and I can tell that patient they were trying to feed was starting the dying process. And to me, the nurse, the CNA, appeared to be frightened out of their mind, not sure what to do. And I went over and I felt I talked to this, like when you go to a memory unit, you're helping feed your own patient, and you're at the table, there's talk going around and different, you get to know everybody's first names or nicknames. So I took that person's hands, and that there's several reasons for that. One, I'm showing compassion to the person, but for those who are nurses, just so that you're aware, now I'm feeling the extremity temperature. I can just slide my fingers up to the radial or the ulnar pulse, and I can feel, is it strong, is it thready, is it regular, and get a picture of that. And then I'm close by, so I can look up, am I seeing yellow jaundice in the sclera of the eyes? Am I seeing any type of thrush or other issues in their mouth? How's their teeth look? How's their breathing? And so, in all this in seconds to me, if you've been doing this for years, we're not talking hours doing this or uncomfortable silence, it's quick. And so I was able to help in that case, and then later got chastised because it's like, this is not your patient. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a human being. If I see somebody in crisis, I don't know how to word this. So I'm not trying to say I have a hero complex, but I'm going to go over and help. I'm going to be a human being that I'd expect to be towards me. Anyway, before a rabbit trail, goes over wisdom and knowledge markers, a new relationship with death. The conclusion, and after every conclusion, I'm trying to have reflection questions. Then we get into the scope of practice. This is extremely important. We do, this is going to be hard for both me to say, and it's hard to do. We want to stay in our lane. And I just gave you a story where you're not here, you weren't in your lane. But you do want to try. And so, to give you an example, like where I would not go, if there was medication tray right there, I wouldn't grab medications and go give the med and act like I was a doctor or the nurse for that patient. That would have been, I could have lost my license for if I would have went that direction. That would have been completely wrong. If the nurse that was there said, Peter, here is the med, could I give that? And by the way, I have checked with management if I was ever asked. Yes, that's something I could do, at least in Pennsylvania, not sure in Kentucky. But you do want to be extremely careful to know what is your scope of practice. What can a death doula not do? And I'm going to highlight the provide medical care. And the reason that I'm going to give that is one of the advice for anyone considering becoming a death doula is please, you don't have to, but please consider being a hospice volunteer. 3 months, 6 months, a year or more, whatever you can give, you will gain so much knowledge. How does that relate to scope of practice, provide medical care? So everyone has a scope of practice, including hospice volunteers. Hospice volunteers are not allowed to provide medical care. I still remember my case where I was a hospice volunteer and I was going to a nursing home and I had an ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease patient, who I was there as a volunteer. I was their eyes, their ears. I shouldn't say ears, I was their hands. They would normally have me play PlayStation type video games where they would tell me what to do, and if I did it wrong, I'd get yelled at. Not to try to take it personally, because it's they're dying, not actively so does, but this is all for them. And like, I don't know this game, and I don't have a PlayStation at home. But long story short, I had the opportunity to go to see Suicide Squad when it first came out in the theater, and see this with this gentleman that I was a volunteer for. And so, free tickets, free, the food stand and everything else. And so I'm driving, behind the ambulance, and the first of not provide medical care, ambulance pulls over in a gas station. I end up pulling out. They're opening the back door. They only had one driver. They're going back into the back. I'm a nursing student, by the way, at the time. They see that I see they're having trouble. I come out. Are you doing okay? No. This patient was so thin. And when somebody can't help support you, even a thin person that's even underweight is like a 100-pound sack of potatoes. And so this was a two-person job to get them back in the wheelchair. So I helped. Um, Technically outside the scope of practice, I'm not allowed to do that. We get to the movie theater. I knew this was going to happen. He asked for like 2 hot dogs, 2 monster drinks. I'm thinking, number one, he can't eat the hot dog because he can't use his hands. I'm not supposed to be medical care feeding somebody's medical care. And with that many drinks, he's going to have to go to the bathroom. So I ended up cutting up the hot dog and giving pieces. I'm not supposed to do that. And yes, he had to go to the bathroom. Major, oh my word. I don't want to go down the rabbit trail, but there are going to be times where uh, you are going to have to make a decision for you that only you can make, not me. I'm not going to judge, non-judgmental channel. But you can be put in those, oh my word, no one told me I can get into this situation. Well, I'm telling you now before you're in it. It's outside your scope of practice, but who knows what you're going to get into. Because if you're in somebody's home, you you don't know what you're going to get. That's the scary part. That's why volunteer. 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you can give. We can't. Death doulas were not covered by Medicare, Medicaid. Some of the differences. And by the way, you can get training. So if you're a death doula and you become a certified med tech, guess what? As long as you give full disclosure, communicate transparency. I'm a death doula who's also a med tech, therefore I can. I'm a death doula and I'm a certified nursing assistant, therefore I can. So there's a lot that's there. And cannot explain how much important it is to be transparent. Legal boundaries. Keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer, not giving legal advice. Ethical boundaries. I'm going to refer to NEDA, the National. Um, I'm not going to kill the word for their association, National End of Life Doula Association. They are, of all the research I've done, To me, they're the cream of the crop. And I don't say this to down anyone who's trying to compete with them, but they have so much to offer. And again, just trying to be careful of the time. Cultural sensitivity matters so much. Scope of practice. Now, this is the most extensive chapter to date. It is extremely important for death doulas and anyone else who works with death and dying to understand the dying process as much as possible and to be abundantly transparent myself, no matter how detailed I write, no matter how thorough I write, no matter how many books of other people you read. Barbara Karn's gone from my site. Maybe you read dozens of books and articles on death and dying. You're a thanatologist. Unless you've been there in person multiple times, and I don't even say this for me like I've been enough, there's always going to be that one time where that person's own death was different than what you expected. There was a time where I thought everyone who died was always comatose all the way to the end, until you have that one patient who's actively dying literally in your arms while you're hugging them comfortably, and they take their last breath and they were looking at you and trying to talk. There are certain things you can't convey. You have to experience. So here we go over 6 months or less, and the hospice part of me can't go out 9 months to a year. So please forgive me for that in advance. So I'm looking at the 6 month or less, what we're looking at. The 3 months or less increasing symptoms. The increasing withdrawal. The increasing restlessness. Uh, Fair warning, being transparent, when we get to the reference section, you'll see that probably a page or two of the references, there's several pages of references so far, and this is just building up. I do reference a lot of the books, a lot of the articles on compassioncrossing.info that I have written. You don't have to buy the books individually, but they are out there if you want more information. So 1 month or less. Breathing patterns are the most significant. I'm talking about the pattern, not how fast or slow. That matters. The pattern matters the most. How frequently the pattern changes matters the most. Hallucinations and visions, skin changes, increasing sleeping. 2 weeks. It's transitioning phase. Now, I've had people transition for up to a month. Sorry, Grammarly Pro. Love it, hate it. It's like I can come here tomorrow and it's going to say, gee, there's another way to word that. And I don't always accept every suggestion they have. That just happened to be one. And I read fast. Happened to be one that's okay. Extended sleep. As a FYI, I just want to focus here for just a moment. I do appreciate your time so far. But for those of you, if you have friends and family members or you're participating in social media and somebody's saying they're not on hospice, they're not receiving palliative care, my loved one is, even if it's sleeping 20 hours or more, that is not normal. They're in the last 3 months, 1 month, if they're 18 or more. Somebody comes on to hospice, they're generally sleeping 12 hours or more, 6 months out. 3 months out, they're probably around the 16 to 18 mark. 1 month, 6 weeks out, they're probably 18 hour mark. Uh, you know, less than 6 weeks, 4 months, 20 hours. They're sleeping 22 hours. Please recommend, encourage them hospice and palliative care. They're sleeping that much. They need to get an evaluation. My personal opinion only. Final days, again, referencing Whispers of Time. Last hours, last moments. Again, I've tried to be extremely, extremely detailed in here. The glassy scare, the jaw relaxing, the final breath. I've been there when somebody, I still remember the case in Glen Rock where the patient took their last breath. I was several feet away in conversation with the son and the fiance of the son. Last breath. Took me a moment just to go over. I'm, stethoscope on. I checked the carotid artery with my hand, my fingers. I'm listening to a heartbeat, and several seconds into listening, a breath, and no, I did not jump, but internally, emotionally, I did. You have to have a strong game face. Just words of advice. Uh, and and then after the second one, I looked up and I said, I'm going to go sit down and we're going to wait. These are reflex breathings. I had to think for a moment. Thinking on your toes sometimes you have to be very fast. I'm not saying I'm great at it. My heart, if you're an ER nurse, you amaze me. And my ICU nurses, all of my nurses amaze me. Um, I'm humbled often. Um, and no, I don't know it all. I never will. I do believe I have expertise in some areas, but um, anyway, before I go on rabbit trails, that gets into where like you're not always going to experience everything, and you're going to get new environments. So supporting the family, sadness and grief, anger is beyond common. I cannot emphasize enough for any of you who are having grief yourself, anticipatory grief, or working with friends and others. There's 5 stages of grief. They don't necessarily go in order. It's not that you're through them and you're never going to have them again, or you've been done with the phase and you never get that phase again. Um, you're out there. It's going to be back and forth. Conversations, that's another one of my books. Coping strategies, cultural and individual differences, family needs. A lot of the work that we do while we're there for the patient, while they're cognitively able, and even when they're not, just your presence. I don't know how to emphasize enough how much presence matters. Rebecca, if you're ever watching this video, I worked with Rebecca from a death doula perspective. I didn't use those words with Rebecca. I helped freely. She's up in New York. We've never talked on the phone, but we Facebook messaged often. I would try to encourage like your visits. Like my dad can't talk. Your visits, hearing's the last to go. They sense your presence matters so much. So you are there for the patient, but you're also there for the caregivers and the family members. When I mention caregivers, you might be going to see a patient in a facility. You may never meet the family, maybe all by phone. Those caregivers become like family. They are family to the patient. So your care for the caregivers, you are building a network of connections. Human beings who are not put on this earth to be all about me, myself, and I. We are put on this earth to connect and to bless. And yes, to glorify God. I never want to miss the God aspect, and I'm not trying to preach. But even if you're an atheist watching this, we are meant to connect with one another, to uplift and encourage, not to push down, not to bash, I'm not saying don't vent and have angry days, but support and bless one another. And that's my hope for as I write these books. And I apologize if I get a little bit emotional here, but I cannot emphasize enough the importance of your presence and what you do to bless and help others. And Robert, I know you watch a number of my videos. Thank you. Love your nature walks. But even you just sharing your nature walks on YouTube, and I don't know who you always connect with in person, but there's different ways to connect with others. There are death doulas that do virtual work. So that's just to put that out there. You don't always have to be there in person. So if you're scared, I don't think I can deal with the person dying in front of me. You could be a death doula over the telephone. So family challenges. And again, I know I'm going a little bit on the fast end for some of this, the reflection questions. This is a chapter I may need to come back and flesh more, because even last night I was digging in and I was adding another organization that does complete certification. So one thing I feel compelled, I have to point out, death doulas for now. This video is being made in 2025, April 30th. Tomorrow's May 1st. So we're spring of 2025. I don't know when this will change, but now and for the past several years, there is no governing body for death doulas. Let that sink in. There is no an over-governing body. Now, what does that mean? Well, the best comparison I can give, as much as I don't like the schools being compared to nursing schools, but for becoming a licensed practical nurse, an LPN or a registered nurse, there are governing bodies that if you go to become a licensed nurse, both LPNs and RNs are licensed nurse. Pennsylvania, Texas, California, even in Canada and overseas in Europe, the standards are the same. Now, I wish we lived in a world of fine print. So the Canadian nurse who wants to practice in Pennsylvania, their standards might be different enough where they have to retest. The same way for overseas coming to PA. But if in the United States, they're the same. In Canada, they're the same. Overseas, they're the same. Now, I'm not talking if they come from one country to another, but within the country, they're the same. So that's why when I went to become a registered nurse in Kentucky, I didn't have to take my boards again. I just had to have my license endorsed and to prove to the board, take a jurisprudence exam and prove to Kentucky, here's the Kentucky scope of practice. I mentioned scope of practice earlier. But I didn't have to go through all the years of training and the education and so on. I paid a $15, long cry from 800 to 8,000 plus, paid a $15 fee, maybe it was 45, but it was under 50 for a jurisprudence exam. And here I am, Kentucky registered nurse because of that governing body, because all the nurses have to get the same level of training. So while one book for a curriculum might differ from another, overall, they have to have a baseline. They have to have a baseline because of the governing body. A CNA, a certified nursing assistant in Kentucky, PA. Now they may call them different words. So I found out in Kentucky they're an SRNA versus a CNA. But the training, there's governing bodies. So for death doulas for right now, 2025 spring, can't tell the future. I don't think it's going to happen for the rest of 2025. But I'm not a prophet. Don't know. There's no governing body. So there's the NIDA, which I believe is among the best of the organizations out there. And I'm going to bring up some others. They're not a governing body. They give recommendations. All these, so when we get into the comprehensive training, like the different training programs that are out there, and there's probably more than in my bullet points. And I apologize if I missed one. If you're seeing one in here, you're watching this video, Peter, you missed this, and the book's not yet published. And even if it is, I could put it, I could add it and upload it to Amazon. It won't get anyone who bought printed versions won't get that resent to them. But I don't mind updating the book as time goes on. But this is what I know coming below. These are the training courses I know for comprehensive, but they give you the certification, and each of these ones are different from the other ones. Some are more in depth than others. Like I just last night I added this is Anna's international doula life movement training program. Uh, that's extremely extensive, and her program is on the more economical ends. And with these, or one of the differences for her, I'm not trying to endorse Anna's program, but one of the differences for her is all of her instructors are practicing in throughout. So the reason I bring that out, and there's an offering out there where some of the instructors are retired, or they're instructing is their full-time job, and so that's where, and as I share this, to be keeping with transparency, part of the reason I continue to try to find a part job in hospice is after a period of time, all I am going to have is book knowledge, which I do believe is valuable, but not as valuable as somebody who's doing it live, hands on. So there are programs like Anna's where all of the instructors are practicing. And just so that you're aware, I did not do a deep dive in each of these. So some of these other ones, their instructors may be practicing as well. So I want to be unbelievably clear that, like when it's mentioned later on in this chapter, I cannot ethically, from my perspective, endorse a single course or certification program. I just want to be transparent that there's no governing body, no governing body. The courses that are out there are extremely different from one another. And the third point, extremely important, that just because you're certified by any of these, does not mean that you have the equivalent knowledge of the other ones. And that's what the importance for governing body. I'm a registered nurse. Even let's say I went out to visit Ed Braddock, who's an excellent nurse in Texas, or Tanya Frazier, who's an excellent nurse in Georgia, and some of my other friends. Let's say I go and visit. And I'm not saying practice, although many states allow you, like if I were to offer continuing education credits, I would not necessarily need to be endorsed. I'd have to check into different states. For Kentucky, I could have came to Kentucky as a Pennsylvania nurse and taught without getting endorsed. But guess what? My knowledge of nursing, I'm not saying, how to phrase this, my baseline knowledge of nursing is the exact same. My baseline is the exact same as Ed's and Tanya's, Tamara's, and many others out there. My baseline. There are areas of expertise they're going to know, like Ed knows pathophysiology. Even though I wrote a book on it, he probably knows better than anything in my book. Um, and Tanya, who I thought compassion and empathy pour out of me from talking to Tanya. And I've not met Tanya in person. I've talked to her for several hours one day when we were brainstorming for how to help her one patient. It pours off of her compassion and empathy. So I'm not talking about wisdom now, but the baseline is the same. However, you have one doula that I'm going to, this is not picking on, but one doula who went with We're Going with Grace, and another doula went through the conscious dying, and another one went to the sacred patches, and one went to Anna's program, the International Life Movement. And that they would get together for breakfast one day and share their baseline knowledge. There would be dramatic differences from what I'm researching. And so that gets to be the problem. So to the patient and the family, I want somebody who's certified. That certification does not mean that you're getting somebody who, and I don't know how to word this because I don't want to say they're not qualified, but they may not have the baseline that you anticipate because you think certification means one thing and it does not, because there's no governing body. So while I encourage everyone to get certified, I'm going to have a comment below I just added last night in the book. that you're going to hear and see. I encourage certification. It does not mean what people think it means. Like, it does have meaning to be a licensed practical nurse, a registered nurse, a certified nursing assistant. It has meaning because there's a governing body. So everybody has the same baseline experience, baseline education. Shouldn't say experience. Well, it is experience because there's certain clinical requirements. You have to be out in a clinical program. It does not mean what the consumer thinks. So we get into certification options. This is a short table with the non-inclusive, not all inclusive, choosing the right programs. And as I share this, some of you who know anything about me, Peter, I thought you don't like XYZ, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail because I have my personal faith and I have my personal feelings and opinions. I am not there to preach, philosophize. As I share this, I don't wear my face as a coat where I just wear it to church and wear it when I'm reading my Bible. But unless the door is open for me to share the gospel, I am not there to push the gospel. I am not there to tell somebody how to live their life. So that's where the best example I can give is there are certain living former presidents that I cannot stand for the life of me. I don't believe in what they did. I don't want to go down the rabbit trail for why. But if I was ever called to be their nurse, whether it be concierge, hospice nurse, palliative care nurse, or their death doula, I would do it with a smile. I would do it with love because I love connecting. We talked about that connection. I love caring for people, and I would put aside, I would literally, as best I am able internally, blank that out because I am there for the person who is dying, not there to judge them, condemn them, and push them because that's God, not me. Moving on. One of the notes that I added is right here. Uh, if you are, sorry, highlighted too much. If you are, gee, I want to get certified. And this is the boat I'm in, just to be very clear. This is the boat I am in right now, and this could change in a heartbeat because I'm talking to Anna and others. Hey, if you teach my program, we can get you certified. I don't know how that will turn out. I'm open to a lot of different ventures within this field. So, but let's say you're in my boat. I can't afford the 500. I can't. That $8,000 one looks wonderful, but I can't. I'd have to mortgage my home. If I'm charging $25 an hour, and let's say I can finagle that my taxes are minimal, maybe I get all of that 25. I'm not just not giving advice, but maybe you can work it that it's all yours. You're still talking $320, 320 hours to pay back the $8,000. Maybe you can't do that. What's the way to get certified? Well, you join NIDA. That's $50 as of this filming. You wait to verify. They made this very clear, and I'm trying to make it extremely clear to you. Wait until you're a member. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week. You wait until you're on the membership roll. You enroll as an end-of-life doula. They have different pricing options. They have student, for the doula is $50 as of this filming. You wait until you're validated as a member. Then, and not that you can't study sooner, they have a PDF study guide that is part of the references in this book. And you don't need the book. It's not even published yet. Go to their website, find their study guide, study it, then pay $115. You do have to pass with a certain score. That's why you study. Take the test. It's $115. So now for $165, if you pass, you're certified. And then they have another course for certification. They call it micro certifications, but guess what? It's like they have cameras with 3/4 micro lenses. I am a baby at learning cameras. Um, Micro certifications is certification. Fine, it's minimal fine print. They have an after death care for $115. So for all of this, $115, $230, $50, $280 for under $300. That's under the lowest course of 500. You are fully certified. There you go. Inexpensive option. Some bigger pictures. The critical skills. Pain aid. There's a reference. I have several articles on pain aid for free on my site. Different resources. Now you're going to see some underlined red. That's just spelling. I do want to give a fine print here. There is a death doula in Indiana. My heart goes out for her. I do, as I remember, I do have to remember to put it in my actual printed prayer list. Notion, not associated, I should say electronic. Uh, but she's not broken any laws, but the funeral business is can be vicious. And so she's been on and off in court defending the right for what she's doing. And Minnesota, by the way, is going through a green burial uh, moratorium. So really, you got to do a lot of homework for some of this. I'm not trying to scare you away from being a death doula, but for your offering, you have to do homework for what's legal in your state. I cannot emphasize enough, even in whether this channel, this book, any of my books, not financial advice, not legal advice. We don't have a consulting arrangement. Um, I'm just giving educational advice, and I'm encouraging you. You need to dig deeper, even than what's in this book. Even when it's all done as thorough as I can be, I can't cover like can't do war and peace. You can do war and peace on just one subject matter. Um, there are certification bundles. Again, economically, NIDA. Some of them have recertification requirements like the International End of Life Doula Association, 36 hours every 3 years. And that can change. So if you're reading this, Peter, they changed that last week, or did you miss that they changed it last month and just updated their website for me to find out. So how to fulfill some real world examples when I can. This has been some of the harder parts compared to some of my other books, is finding real life examples that I can connect the dots. I do want to put a word of warning, advice. Last Thursday, I went to a 4-hour session. The first 3 hours was beyond amazing. And then I went to a sales pitch. Not saying it was bad to go to a sales pitch, but that person, I'm not going to name names, that person who had free material as part of their 7th annual world event. And they mentioned a Medicare study that hospice only does, like, I forget whether it's 30 minutes or an hour. I could not find the study. I dug and I dug and I dug. I literally am putting it out there live. I don't think the study exists. It might have existed and it might have gotten pulled. So that to me is a challenge, because I don't want to have in my books, Peter, you made that up. And I'm not saying the study was made up. Maybe it was out there and it was pulled. But it does build it, to me, it detracts from trust. Like, I'm like, gee, was if that was a mistake, what else is out there? Because as beautiful as death can be, this is serious business. I don't want to give wrong information in any of my books. With that said, just so that you're aware, I did have somebody come to me over my best-selling book. Not sure if I can get the right angle here, but my documentation handbook, and said, Peter, I don't understand on page 46 the negative wording here. And I went to the Word document, pulled it up. I must have been rushing or not enough copy. I reversed the negative and positive. Right examples, wrong label. And so I thanked her. I corrected the book. It was literally uh, 2 sentences. I had it wrong out of the book. I republished this, by the way. I ended up getting another author copy, but I ended up to um, Kathy, if I remember correctly. Please don't get mad if I got your name wrong. Um, but Kathy, I fixed it. I thanked her. I was so grateful for her catching that mistake. I said, go out to Amazon, pick any one book, any of the books I've written, put it in a gift registry cart, send me the link, and I will buy you that book. The reason for going through the gift registry, I could do this via author copy, where I'm paying just the print cost in the paperback, but that requires me to know the address of where I'm sending, and I respect everyone's privacy. So if you like the gift registry route, allow me to respect Kathy's privacy for where she lives. And while it was more costly to me, uh, it was a way of saying thank you for pointing out a mistake that I'm sorry for. And part of being sorry is how can I make it up? So by the way, and I can't always promise this, if you find the mistake in your book, can I always give you a free book in return? Maybe. Reach out to me. We'll see. Uh, I love people. I love connecting. I love helping people. So if you find something, Peter, you were an idiot. This shouldn't be there. You're not, number one, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Number two, you might get a free book out of it. Just putting it out there. Hopefully, I don't have that many mistakes because I'm not a rich person. I'm grateful to God for everything that we receive. Building your library. Yes, this is a self plug. That compassioncrossing.info. That is a website I maintain. There's over 400 articles. I try to publish Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So many topics on death and dying. Go out there. It's free. Other online resources, and there's more than this for online resources. I got to watch print cost to a degree. Um, Technical knowledge, learning experience. We're coming to the end of this particular. There'll be an outro, depending. I just have a blank page for chapter 5. Now the references, and I'm not going to go slow mo, but there's a lot. And yes, there's a segment where these are books I've written that I believe are appropriate for the doula movement. Some of them were written, like the second one listed. Yes, that's more for a hospice nurse. The last one is more for a hospice nurse, but there's value for death doulas as well, because I do try to write in a way that makes all the material readable using tables as appropriate. Then we get into a number of other people. Barbara Carnes, her work is spectacular. And yes, I do have to go back and put on from my site as I did mention in the book, but I have to put the reference in there. I might even have it in because I'm trying to do alphabetical order with as you see with the labels. There's a lot of articles again for Compassion Crossing, for that, like Last Breath. Um, Online libraries. And again, this is with chapter 4. As I write more, this is going to be growing. No, I don't have gone from my site, so I have to go back and add that. And just trying to give you the resources out there. Part of the reason for the extensive references is these are ways to visit these websites. They've all been validated that you can click on it. It's actually a working link. The reason I put it that way is as I'm doing research, sometimes things change. I have a broken link detector on Compassion Crossing .info, and I've even have the Hospice and Palliative Care Organization make changes, Medicare.gov make changes, and it's like I oh my. So at this time, this is everything's been validated. The VA, by the way, has lots of stuff on like PTSD and a lot of free education out there. So that's it for here. Watch the outro. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time watching those clips. I understand this is an extremely long video, so do appreciate your time. If you have any questions on becoming a death doula or hospice nurse, holistic nurse, death and dying, chronic illnesses, especially those that become terminal, this is a non-judgmental channel. Please comment below and I'll do my best to respond to you promptly. I do appreciate you. I thank you for your time. Take care and God bless.